6-year-old void god realm? How is this possible? It's been 10,000 years since such a terrifyingly talented existence has appeared. The old man frowned deeply, his face full of disbelief. After a long silence, the expression on his face finally softened a bit. In a cold tone, he said, "Quickly go inform the other elders. Let them know about this matter. Whether this news is true or false, our plans and arrangements against the Lee family can no longer be delayed. We must act swiftly. With such a talent, it might even alarm the head of the Lee family. Gaining the protection of the main branch of the G family, it will be much more difficult for us to act then." Understood, Great Elder. The disciple beside him quickly turned and left upon hearing the order. As the disciple's figure gradually disappeared, the old man sat down cross-legged again. At that moment, the spiritual energy in the room began to gather around the old man, like an invisible vortex. If someone else saw this scene, they would be extremely surprised, for no other reason but because such a phenomenon of swallowing the essence of the sun, moon, and heavens can only be achieved at the Emperor realm, in a place hidden among the rolling clouds of the mountains. A graceful figure, a girl of about 11 or 12, was practicing swordsmanship. At this moment, a maid rushed over, looking anxious. He hurriedly ran in, chattering excitedly, "Did you hear? In the Lee family, there's a 6-year-old prodigy. Few days ago, he suddenly reached enlightenment in a single day and stepped into the void god realm. He became an incredible sword immortal. Now the entire immortal domain is crazily talking about him. They say this little prodigy is the youngest sword immortal in the domain, with unlimited potential and all that." The girl's sword dance paused slightly. She turned to look at the anxious maid, a hint of surprise on her face. "A 6-year-old sword immortal? That's indeed impressive." "That!" The girl waved her long sword, executing a few beautiful sword flourishes. Magically, with her movements, the sea of clouds below the mountain seemed to churn, as if driven by some unseen force, rolling up in waves like an ocean. Impressive indeed. But that boy isn't the youngest sword immortal in the immortal domain. Our young lady is the most talented, the youngest great sword immortal in the 8,000 spirit realms. The void god realm is merely the first step on the immortal path. What's there to boast about? Our young lady is sitting on the edge of the cliff, gazing at the surging sea of clouds below." The maid pouted, her face full of disdain. On the other side, Dao also returned to Yuqing sect. As soon as he returned to the sect, he summoned his great-granddaughter, who was known for her exceptional talent and had a phoenix physique, highly favored within the sect. He informed her about the arranged marriage with the Lee family. Marriage arrangement? After hearing Dao Ren's words, Gu Zizhuan frowned slightly. On her cold face, a trace of displeasure appeared. Noticing Gu Zizhuan's emotions, Dao Ren quickly explained, "Zizhuan, you may not know. A few days ago, when I visited the Li family to celebrate the birthday of the Ji family's young master, the previously talentless Li family young master suddenly awakened with a natural sword bone. Even though the Li young master is only 6 years old, he stepped into the immortal path in one day, reaching the void god realm, becoming the youngest sword immortal in the past 10,000 years throughout the entire immortal realm. And you, as the most outstanding talent among the new generation of disciples in Yuqing sect, if you marry that Li young master, it would indeed be a perfect match. Most importantly, if this marriage succeeds, it would bring numerous benefits, both for you personally, for our Yuqing sect. You should seriously, as the sect master of Yuqing sect, tomtatanime didn't want to force his beloved great-granddaughter. Therefore, he had to find a way to persuade Gu Zijuan to agree to the marriage. A 6-year-old sword immortal. After hearing Tongtia Dao Ren's words, Gu Zijuan's cold face showed a trace of shock. Born with a phoenix physique, she had always progressed smoothly in her cultivation, never encountering any obstacles. Her cultivation speed was incredibly rapid, terrifyingly so, yet even with her talent, she only reached the Marquis realm at 15, let alone the starting point of the immortal path, the Void God realm. She was still a step away from the King realm, one of the endpoints of the path. But now Tongtia Dao Ren was telling her that the 6-year-old from the Li family had already stepped into the Void God realm, becoming a true sword immortal. How is this possible? Could it be that her sect master grandfather fabricated this story just to trick her into agreeing to this marriage? After a brief contemplation, although Gu Zijuan was unwilling, he still snorted coldly. If the young master of the Li family is truly as formidable as you say, then even if I agree, what difference would it make? Gu Zijuan made up her mind internally. In matters of cultivation, she had never feared anyone. When she had the chance to meet the young master of the Li family, she would definitely challenge him to a duel, to show him that there is always someone better, and that the sky is vast beyond measure. That Li family boy is not worthy. Senior sister, is it true that the sect master is going to marry you off to that Li family boy? What a muddle-headed decision. The sect master is truly confused this time. Sigh. I heard that despite being only 6 years old, he is an unrepentant alcoholic, spending his days indulging in pleasures, completely neglecting his cultivation. At 16, he had barely grown any hair. Yet he already set his sights on our senior sister Gu. In the future, he is sure to become a profligate young master indulging in wine and women. Although recent rumors say he achieved immortality in one day, becoming a 6-year-old sword immortal, no matter how talented such a profligate young master is, it is a waste. The Li family boy is simply unworthy of our senior sister Gu. After leaving Tongtia Dao Ren's place, the news of him planning to marry Gu Zijuan to you spread quickly throughout Yuqing sect, causing a stir. Almost all the male disciples in Yuqing sect couldn't help but wail to the heavens, beating their chests, vowing to work harder in their cultivation to win back Gu Zijuan, who was to be married to the Li family boy. Gu Zizhuan's title as the 8,000-year beauty is not just an empty reputation. Combined with her powerful cultivation talent, she is admired by many male disciples within the sect. As for the female disciples, though not as enraged as the male disciples, they also didn't hold you in high regard, thinking you were unworthy of Gu Zizhuan. No reason other than that. Gu Zizhuan's talent is something all the disciples of Yuqing sect can clearly see. In contrast, that Li family boy, despite his recent fame, which shocked the entire immortal realm, was also known for his reputation as a little alcoholic. When comparing the two, many disciples naturally felt that the Li family boy was unworthy of Gu Zizhuan. These discussions about the marriage naturally reached Gu Zizhuan's ears. However, she did not say much, or rather, she disdained to explain anything. Instead, she focused on her cultivation, as usual, perhaps stimulated by your one-day ascension to a 6-year-old sword immortal. 3 days later, Gu Zizhuan, who had been stuck at the peak of the Marquis realm, suddenly attained enlightenment, breaking through 2 realms consecutively, surpassing the King realm, and directly stepping into the Void God realm, taking the first step on the path of immortality. Upon hearing this, Tongshan Taoist was overjoyed, increasingly convinced that his great-granddaughter and Li family young master were a perfect match, well-suited for each other. However, many disciples of the Yuqing sect were growing increasingly resentful, believing that the Li family child was not worthy of the exceptionally talented and hardworking Gu Zixuan. The most furious among them was an inner disciple named Liu Mingxuan. In a secret room within the Yuqing sect, Liu Mingxuan's face was livid, his expression extremely unpleasant. Kneeling on the ground, he spoke to the elder in front of him. "Grandfather, you must have heard that the sect leader wants to marry junior sister Zixuan to that Li family child. No matter what, persuade the sect leader to cancel this marriage. I have admired junior sister Zixuan for a long time, as you know. Moreover, with her talent, she is destined to become the next sect leader of Yuqing sect. If I can marry junior sister Zixuan, you will have a greater chance of taking control of the Yuqing sect." Before Liu Mingxuan could finish, the elder frowned and angrily shouted. Liu Mingxuan immediately fell silent, daring not to utter another word. The elder before him was none other than his own grandfather, who was also second only to the sect leader in terms of power and status within the Yuqing sect. Tongshan Taoist's great elder, Liu Feng, learned about Tongshan Taoist's intention to marry Gu Zixuan to you, and naturally Liu Mingxuan opposed it. However, confronting the sect leader, Tongshan Taoist, was something he dared not do. So he approached great elder Liu Feng, hoping his grandfather could persuade Tongshan Taoist to stop this marriage. Unfortunately, after a moment of silence, Liu Feng sighed softly and shook his head, saying, "I know the sect leader's temperament better than you. Once he decides on something, it's nearly impossible to change his mind. Is likely set. And if the rumors are true, given the talent the Li family child has shown, and the current power of the Li family, he is indeed a match for Gu Zixuan. This marriage can be considered well-matched. Hearing this, Liu Mingxuan grew anxious. So what should we do now? Are we just going to watch as this unknown kid takes junior sister Zixuan away? What about your long-standing plans, grandfather? Won't they fall through? Liu Feng pondered for a moment, his expression growing increasingly sinister. HMPH, a century of my scheming, will not be thwarted by a mere child. The sect leader's decision is hard to change. Then we'll make sure that the Li family child has no chance to marry Gu Zixuan. Mingxuan's eyes lit up, seeming to understand the elder's idea. You mean outside of Yuking's sect, the elders of other major sects in the immortal domain also heard about you attaining enlightenment in a day, becoming a 6-year-old sword immortal. They were all shocked and started discussing it wildly. A 6-year-old sword immortal? This is too outrageous. Among our sect's most talented young disciples, the best one is now 16, and only at the Fenggo realm. Never mind the Void God realm. He's still far from the Fengguang realm. Who isn't? The most talented disciple in our sect was playing with mud at 6. Compared to the Ji family's 6-year-old sword immortal, the gap is enormous. Terrifying. Truly terrifying. Given time, his future achievements will be limitless. A Daluo sword immortal? You know what that means? Great sects in the immortal domain are well aware their most talented disciples might not even compare to this. Even the prodigies of the 10 holy lands, the 8 great immortal sects, and the 100 sacred clans, with their killins and phoenixes, might not measure up. The little drunkard they used to mock ... has now become a lofty, unapproachable celestial being. Amidst the shock of the various sects, a rumor spread that Tongshan Taoist intended to marry off Gu Zixuan, the most talented young disciple of Yuking sect, and the once in 8,000 years beauty, to the 6-year-old Li family child. Immediately, the disciples who had been amazed by your talent and were filled with admiration. The young sword immortal of Yuking sect? Is this news true? Isn't the Li family child only 6 years old? Can he already marry? And he's marrying the Yuking sect's fairy? May I ask, has the Li family child even hit puberty? Fairy Zixuan's name is known throughout the immortal domain. Her exceptional talent and her high level of cultivation at such a young age have made countless male disciples of the sects admire her and regard her as a goddess in their hearts. Now, suddenly hearing that Tongshan Taoist, the sect leader of Yuking sect, wants to marry their beloved fairy to a 6-year-old child who hasn't even grown up, naturally, the disciples of the various sects are outraged. That's Fairy Gu we're talking about.